As much as we love the big players of the Sword Art Online franchise like Kirito, Asuna, Sinon, Alice, etc., one person always stands out to me as a fragment of what they should have been: Lisbeth. Lisbeth is someone who, like many other girls, had feelings for Kirito. Her story is just a little different. To know Lisbeth's origins of her affection for Kirito, we need to look back to Sword Art Online, where the two first met. While the anime does a good job showing Liz's feelings and emotions, I do think it's worth noting that the novel does that exponentially better due to her story being told directly from her perspective, with her own thoughts and feelings being very much on display for anyone reading to resonate with. A normal day in Lisbeth's shop has our big strong boy Kirito pop into the shop looking for a smithy that can make him an extremely powerful sword. Lisbeth is obviously up for the challenge because her entire life in SAO has been boiled down to crafting the finest swords she can make and becoming the best smithy possible. All the way from a humble start on a street stand into the thriving business she currently possesses. This isn't so easy for someone like Kirito though. He obviously needs a weapon of an extremely high caliber, as he is basically the strongest player in the game. A lot of sarcastic bickering and bantering later, we end up at Kirito and Lisbeth deciding to embark on a quest to defeat a dragon atop a snowy mountain on the 55th floor in search of some very rare materials that will aid in making Kirito the best sword possible. Do note that Liz doesn't necessarily have feelings for Kirito at this point, but the constant flirtatious bickering insists that there is a little bit of something there already. Along the way to the quest, Liz is shocked by how unbelievably cold it is, and Kirito gladly lets her borrow a warm coat from his inventory. Once our heroes reach the quest location and initiate the battle with the dragon, Kirito decides he will do all the fighting as Lisbeth stays behind cover. Once the fight is almost completed, Lisbeth emerges a bit too early and is met with the dragon's aggro, resulting in her and Kirito both getting involved in a gale attack that deposits the two at the bottom of a giant pit with absolutely zero escape. Before we dive into the happenings of the pit, let's talk about Lisbeth's emotional state. Liz, while a hardened, hardworking smithy on the outside, is very much an emotional wreck on the inside. She longs for some sort of love or visceral human interaction, as her months trapped in this virtual nightmare have been nothing but loneliness and hard work. There was no shortage of men for her to be involved with, but she yearned for something much more real than that. A natural attraction, instead of a forced situation. Our two protagonists now lie at the bottom of a pit with night falling quickly and no way out visible, so the only option is to stay overnight in this hole. Liz starts to open up with Kirito, as Kirito shares tales of many of his wild adventures, with Liz laughing and listening along. But I think the real catalyst that pushes Liz's feelings over the edge is the moment that she asks Kirito why he saved her from the dragon's gale attack, and his response being, "If I had to watch someone die, I'd rather die with them. Especially if it was a girl like you, Liz." Eventually the two settle down in some sleeping bags and head to bed, not before Liz reaches her hand out to Kirito, and he reciprocates. The two holding hands at the bottom of a wintry pit gives Liz a newfound feeling of warmth, not only from Kirito's hand, but from a new spark of affection in her heart. In the morning, with the light from the sun, they manage to find the ore they had been on the quest for, lying within the pit. And with no way out, they decide to take a non-consensual ride on a peeved dragon who had been returning to his lair, which was the pit the two had been trapped in. High up in the sky, seeing everything below them, Liz shouted to Kirito, telling him how much she really liked him. He of course couldn't hear her because of the colossal sound of the dragon flapping his wings. But Liz had finally found that feeling she had been longing for and needed to exclaim it out loud. As we make it back to the shop, this is where Liz gets absolutely heartbroken and destroyed. Asuna arrives as she was worried about not hearing from Lisbeth. After she figures out the situation, she turns to Kirito and makes very obvious flirting conversation with him. Liz's heart sinks into her chest as she now sees that the one person she actually developed feelings for was already involved with her best friend Asuna. After confirming that Asuna was interested in Kirito, she cannot take the pain and escapes to wallow in her sadness. She finds a spot on the edge of town underneath a tree where she can let the tears flow and truly realize the horrible emotional situation she's in. Kirito does eventually come along and use his way with words to cheer her up, filling that void in her chest. But then that's it. That's the end of Liz's story. She never gets that happy ending that she deserved. I'm not saying it should have been Lisbeth and Kirito, not at all. What I am saying is that Lisbeth deserved much more. She was absolutely heartbroken after opening to someone following her stretch of all that pent-up loneliness. and then her conclusion is simply that she has to get over it and come to terms with her situation. Lisbeth could have easily fallen for some other unlikely guy in another game verse and had her happy ending. Give her her own arc or even a spin-off novel or show to help conclude her sad story. Lisbeth was someone who clearly had it rough internally and needed someone to fill that aching loneliness deep within her. To end on her falling for someone to only have it explode back in her face makes her situation even worse. Lisbeth deserved more. What do you guys think? Did Lisbeth have a fulfilling end to her story in Aincrad, or do you also think she deserved much more, whether that be in Aincrad or later on? Let me know in the comments below and we can spark up a conversation. Also, feel free to join in on the Discord in the description and come and chat with me about video ideas, questions, or anything that comes to your mind, really. Thanks for watching the video, and hey, if you enjoyed it, a like and a subscription help out a ton, plus they're free. So long.